Hey guys, hope you're all doing well. So this is the second video of today. First video already up, I'll leave it in the cards. Delphi Case and Kylie Rodney all in one video. So go and check that out over on MichelleAfterDark. But the lady that you can see here is Debbie Collier. And her body has been found in an absolutely horrendous condition, partially burnt. Clearly the most horrific of crimes has happened to her, and the circumstances are incredibly strange. So I'm going to go through this news report here. Family of Debbie Collier, who was found burnt and in a ravine, are being looked at as suspects. And I've got to say, the family are looking very suspect to me. And I've also got a police incident report to show you as well when we've gone through the basics. So there is a trigger warning to this because it's just horrific. It really is. So this crime occurred in Athens, Georgia. And the family members of Debbie Collier, she was aged 59, was last seen on September the 9th. Her body was discovered on September the 11th in a horrifying condition. The family are being interrogated and are being looked at as suspects. This development comes after one neighbour told that Collier had been involved in a screaming and fighting incident the night before she went missing. There was a commotion at the house, the neighbour said. So the neighbour is currently anonymous. According to the New York Post, Debbie's daughter, Amanda Bearden, received $2,385 through the Venmo app from her mother, along with a cryptic message that read, "They are not going to let me go. Love you. There is a key to the house in the blue flower pot by the door." Bearden's boyfriend told the outlet, "They haven't really told us nothing. They've interrogated us all. The people who are closest to her are kind of looked at as suspects right now." The boyfriend, who didn't want to be identified, further said that the cops confiscated Bearden's phone along with his own. "It's weird. I feel like the sheriff's department may have some leads, but they won't tell us anything." Well, they won't do. If they suspect them, of course they won't do. Bearden's boyfriend also stated that the couple had moved, so this is Debbie and Steve, her husband, 2 days before Debbie went missing. He said, "We came back Thursday, September the 8th. Her mother bought us lunch Friday, September the 9th, and then Saturday, September 10th, is when she went missing." So what do we know so far? Debbie's husband, Steve Collier, told investigators that he last saw his wife at 9 p.m. on September the 10th. He said her car was still in the driveway when he left for work the following morning. After learning that Debbie's rented SUV had the Sirius XM satellite radio, cops used its technology to track her location. On September 11th, around 12:30 p.m, Sirius XM tracked the vehicle to US 441 near Victory Home Lane, 60 miles north of Athens, and contacted the Havisham County Sheriff's Office. Her body was discovered in a nearby ravine away from the highway. According to Havisham's County Sheriff's Office, the vehicle was unlocked and unoccupied when found. According to Daily Beast, Bearden told police that her mother did not have any history of mental health issues and denied any tendencies to take her own life. In the incident report, which we're going to look at shortly, she stated that Debbie had a bad back and couldn't have walked far. The Havisham County Sheriff's Office also stated on September 21st, at the time there was no evidence to suggest or support that this incident was related to a kidnapping. So the almost $2,400 that Debbie's daughter got from Debbie via Venmo, indicating that there was a kidnapping, like they won't let me go, was that staged? Was that sent by the daughter to make it look like her mother was still alive? See, there's a little bit more detail in this article by the People. People obtained a copy of the incident report, which we are going to see in a minute, regarding the search for 59-year-old Athens resident Debbie Collier, who was reported missing on September the 10th by her husband and her adult daughter. Both were concerned after the daughter received a disturbing message from her mum as part of a nearly $2,400 Venmo transfer. The missing persons case shifted to a murder investigation the next day when Collier, who had messaged her daughter, "They're not going to let me go, love you," was found on her back in a wooded area in Abersham County, an hour's drive away from her home. She was grasping a small tree with her right hand at the base of an embankment when her body was found. Nearby, police spotted the remnants of a fire, according to the report, which further notes Collier's remains were apparently burnt, what appeared to be charring to her abdomen. Before they discovered her body, the police happened upon a blue tarp. It too was partially burnt. Had whoever murdered her set her on fire? Had they set her on fire while she was still alive? We're still awaiting the autopsy results, so we don't know. And she tried to crawl away. Why was she naked? Was that another thing that was staged to make it look like a sexual attack? So many questions. The report indicates other items of evidence were recovered from the scene, but it doesn't specify what those items were. She was last seen leaving her house on September the 9th, with only her driver's licence and her debit card. But where is her phone? Because she apparently sent her daughter a Venmo message, presumably via her phone. But her daughter tried calling her phone several times, but she never answered. The police tried a number and it went straight to voicemail. So, did she have her phone with her or not? So let's look at the incident report. So here, prior to Victory Home Lane, Clarksville, Georgia. It's interesting that it says, was the incident drug related? And there's a yes to an unknown drug here. So how do they know it's drug related, or are they just suspecting it's drug related? They won't have a toxicology report yet. Or are the things that the police aren't saying? On Sunday, September 11th, 2022, at approximately 12:28 hours, Sergeant Ethan Neal was notified by Habersham's 911 dispatch that a caller from Sirius XM service had been pinging a vehicle per the request of Athens Clark County Police Department in reference to attempting to locate a missing person. The caller from Sirius XM advised dispatch that they had been attempting to locate the vehicle and believed it to have stopped or pulled over in an area of Georgia 15 northbound in the area of Victory Home Lane, Clarksville, Georgia. The vehicle was identified as a 2022 Chrysler Pacifica. The missing person was identified as Deborah Todd Collier. Sergeant Neal requested Officer Dakota Foster from Tallulah Falls Police Department to be en route to the area to attempt to make contact. A short time later, Sergeant Neal was notified by Foster that he had located the vehicle. Sergeant Neal responded to the scene. While en route, Sergeant Neal contacted the Athens Clark County Police Department and spoke with Sergeant Johnson. Johnson advised Sergeant Neal the circumstances of the missing persons incident, informed him that they had been attempting to ping Collier's cell phone throughout that night. Johnson also advised Sergeant Neal that the last communication from Collier was to her daughter. He advised that Collier had used Venmo to send approximately $2,300, it was actually closer to $2,400, with a message that stated something to the effect of, "They won't let me go. There's a key to the house underneath the flower pot." So the police department had been attempting to ping Debbie's phone to no avail, but yet Debbie was able to send this message. Bizarre. So could it be that it was someone logged into Debbie's Venmo account via a different device? So Debbie's phone was destroyed, or it was at least switched off. And that Venmo message came from Debbie's account logged in by a different person. And Debbie was already deceased, even before the family reported her missing. Can we see why this family is looking very suspect? Upon Sergeant Neal's arrival, he observed the vehicle parked in what appeared to be a pull-off that leads to an old logging road directly off Georgia 15 northbound prior to Victory Home Lane. Sergeant Neal was notified by Foster that he observed this vehicle in the same spot at approximately 1700 hours on the 10th of the 9th, but informed Sergeant Neal that vehicles routinely pull into this area. Foster advised Sergeant Neal that the vehicle was unlocked and unoccupied. So 5 o'clock on September 10th, that vehicle was already there. Foster also stated that he walked into the woodland a short distance to see if he could immediately locate Collier, but was unable to do so. Sergeant Neal requested Lee Arundel Correctional Institute K9 to be en route to the scene. Sergeant Neal also requested Georgia State Patrol Aviation to be en route. A short time later, dispatch informed Sergeant Neal that Lacey was unable to respond due to the unavailability of a K9 and was advised that GSP Aviation would be en route. Sergeant Neal requested Deputy Blake Forrester to be en route to attempt to locate Collier. While on scene, awaiting the arrival of Forrester, Collier's daughter, Amanda Bearden, arrived on scene in a hysterical state. Bearden began screaming that the vehicle belonged to her mother. Bearden was notified by Athens Clarke County PD that the vehicle was being pinged by SiriusXM and provided her with the approximate location, so she knew where to go. Sergeant Neal and Foster spoke briefly with Bearden, asking general questions in reference to Collier's mental health state and briefly about her medical history. Bearden advised Sergeant Neal and Foster that her mother did not have any history of mental health issues and denied any tendencies to take her own life. She also stated that the mother had a bad back and couldn't have walked far. While speaking with Bearden, Forrester arrived on scene. Sergeant Neal briefed Forrester on the incident and requested he deploy his K9 in attempt to locate Collier. Forrester deployed his K9 and began searching for Collier, accompanied by Sergeant Neal and Foster. During the track, Sergeant Neal allowed Forrester to stay approximately 25 to 30 feet ahead of him, while he and Foster scanned the woods for any sign of Collier. As Forrester proceeded southeast through the woods, Forrester called out to Sergeant Neal that he had located an item. Sergeant Neal and Foster quickly approached Forrester. Sergeant Neal observed a red tote bag laid on its side near an uprooted tree. At the root ball of the tree, Sergeant Neal observed what appeared to be the remains of a fire. Sergeant Neal approached the fire and looked further down the embankment. Sergeant Neal observed what appeared to be a partially burnt blue tarp. As he looked further down the embankment from the tarp, he observed a nude female lying on her back, grasping a small tree in her right hand. Sergeant Neal approached the female immediately, observing her to be obviously deceased and identifying her as Collier. Sergeant Neal observed Collier's remains to be apparently burnt with what appeared to be a charring to her abdomen. Sergeant Neal instructed Forrester to hold the immediate area while he returned to his patrol vehicle to make the appropriate calls for assistance and to establish a crime scene. Sergeant Neal returned to his patrol vehicle, established a crime scene using crime scene tape around the immediate area of the vehicle, and began a crime scene log at approximately 15:06 hours. At this time, Corporal Andrew Townsend arrived on scene and took over maintenance of the crime scene log for the duration of this incident. Sergeant Neal contacted Habersham County Sheriff's Office Criminal Investigations Division. Investigator George Kaysen requested his response to the scene. Sergeant Neal also requested the State Fire Marshal's Office, Agent Brian Smith, to be en route to the scene. A small time later, Kaysen, along with investigator Cale Garrison, and crime scene technician Kayla Neal arrived on scene. The scene turned over to Kaysen Garrison and CST Neal. Sergeant Neal requested Next List Wrecker RJ's wrecker service to be en route to remove the vehicle. Upon completion of the initial investigation at the scene, Collier's remains were collected by Coroner Kenneth Franklin with assistance from Abersham County Fire and EMS personnel. The wrecker service removed the vehicle. Sergeant Neal followed the wrecker service, and Sergeant Neal followed them from the scene to the Sheriff's Office, where the vehicle was placed into evidence. And there's another little report here. This is from Forrester. On 11th of September, approximately 13:30 hours, Abersham County Dispatch placed a call to Deputy Forrester in reference to a canine assist for a missing person. Deputy Forrester and Canine Zane were requested to respond to the area of GA15 just south of Victory Home Lane, where a vehicle was located for a missing female from Athens, Clark County. Deputy Forrester responded and arrived on scene at approximately 14:20. Forrester was briefed by Sergeant Neal, advising that the female had been missing from Athens, Clark County, and they located the vehicle just prior to calling for canine. The female was described as an older female, late 50s, possibly 60s, and had back problems. Deputies on scene did a quick scan of the immediate woods but did not push in. Nothing was in the vehicle, and there was no known clothing description nor direction of travel. She was travelling alone or someone was with her. Deputy Forrester deployed his nationally certified tracking human odour Canine Zane. He casted around the driver's side door of the vehicle and pushed into the wood line on what appears to be a logging road. They pushed in, casting for odour approximately 50 yards northeast. Could not establish any track, then casted south-southeast. Zane was able to establish a track working south to southeast away from Tallulah Gorge and away from GA15. Zane tracked in that direction for approximately a quarter of a mile. At around that distance mark, Deputy Forrester noticed a red bag through the brush. As they kept approaching the bag, he noticed a blue object that appeared to be a tarp. As they continued to approach, he noticed further down the hill, maybe 10 to 15 feet, a tan object that he approached, and he could tell it was a human body. At that point, Deputy Forrester held what he had visually, clearing the area for any threats, and called for Sergeant Neal to come to his position. Sergeant Neal approached him and saw what Deputy Forrester saw and approached the body to confirm it was female. Upon further visually inspecting the area, Deputy Forrester noticed that it was, in fact, a female body, so there's some redactions there. Sergeant Neal returned to his patrol car to make his phone calls and obtain crime scene tape to establish the crime scene. Deputy Forrester and Canine Zane held the scene. The scene was turned over to investigation upon their arrival. Deputy Forrester stayed on scene in case further assistance was needed. No further action from Forrester the rest of the incident. So, what do you think to all this? I think it's really odd. The details don't make sense. Not as a kidnapping and then a murder. They only really make sense if you think that that Venmo message was to create some kind of alibi, that Debbie was still alive. Was there an argument or something at the lunch, September the 9th? Did something happen then? They waited till the 10th to report her missing? I don't know. I do not know. There's something not right here. Something really not right here. Why were her clothes missing? And why was there an attempt to burn the body? Remove evidence? Maybe. Stage a scene? Well, I'll update on this case when we know more. Bye for now, guys.